Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts. Robert, Khoury, welcome to the conversation today.
Thanks for having me, John.
It's a real pleasure. You're joining us from Chicago. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about weaving dignity into the internship process. You know, we're in a day and age with deep machine learning and generative AI, and I'm a university professor. And so I hear from students all the time how concerned they are about entering the workforce in this current economy, especially with these emerging technologies and disruptive technologies. And they're wondering, what are we going to do, as entry-level employees? What are we going to do when we're trying to get internships? And we have all these technologies that are perhaps that can do the things that maybe we would have done as interns or as entry-level employees. And so that, I think, is perhaps part of this conversation. But more, if we take a step back and we just think about, what historically does it look like to have interns or apprentices, and how were they treated? How did we utilize them within organizations versus today? What does it mean to have like a meaningful internship experience, and how can organizations utilize them in the modern era, especially given what current individuals, what Gen Z workers, students and workers want in the types of experiences that they're seeking, what they expect. So anyways, these are the types of things we're going to explore in our conversation together today. As we get started, I wanted to share Robert's bio with everybody. Robert J. Khoury is the co-founder and CEO of Agile Rainmakers, a high-impact advisory firm based in Chicago's Gold Coast. His 20-plus year career in the financial industry has seen him in many roles as equity derivatives trader, portfolio manager, corporate strategist, recruiter, hedge fund executive, and private equity investor. Rob earned a BSE in electrical engineering at Princeton University and his MBA from Duke University. He takes a great pleasure in supporting organizations, college students, and recent graduates in experiencing outstanding internships. Rob has developed and managed a comprehensive internship program for college students that has resulted in a significant impact for dozens of students and clients alike. He has a passion for ensuring success. As a member of the Princeton Club of Chicago for over a decade, he organized intern luncheons for Princeton students eager to find opportunities in Chicago. He is the co-author of Intern Management, Principles for Designing an Exceptional Internship and How to Intern Successfully, Insights and Actions to Optimize Your Experience. I could go on, but I'm going to pause there, Robert. Anything you would like to highlight by way of your background or personal context before we dive on in further?
Just that I'm really passionate about making a difference for the next generation. And those two books are the first two in a 4-book series that's all about bringing dignity to the internship discourse.
Wonderful, wonderful. I also am passionate about this. Again, as a professor, I'm at a university where we really value the experiential learning process, whether that be through internships or through experiential learning within the class, through class projects and those sorts of things. We really want our students to get practical experience. We want them to be, kind of shovel ready, so to speak. We want them to be able to hit the ground running when they leave the university. So they're not just kind of book smart, but they're actually like hands-on, practical. They have that orientation and they can actually do stuff for organizations and be helpful from day one. And I think that's really where organization or where universities are going. I know we get critiqued all the time. Higher ed gets critiqued for being out of touch, for being behind, for being slow to adapt, for not giving organizations the type of students prepared to do what organizations need them to do. And I think in large part that may be a fair critique. But I also think a lot of people making those critiques don't know what universities like mine are proactively doing actually to counteract that critique. Like we are very proactively trying to respond to that kind of a critique. And I don't think that critique is actually accurate for our program at all. I teach in an HR program. We are super responsive to industry needs. We have an industry advisory board. We're constantly revising our curriculum. We're giving our students lots of hands-on practical experience. Our students leave, our program usually with about 6 to 8 hands-on consulting experiences under their belt, 1 or 2 internships under their belt, with a couple industry certifications under their belt. So I think we want students ready to like hit the ground running, and that's becoming more and more common in the university space. Not universally, but certainly there are universities that really are focusing on that. So I just want to highlight that like internships really matter, experiential learning really matters, but they're all not all created the same. Like we've all heard the stories, or there's a caricature of you go do an internship and it's like this crappy like devil wears Prada kind of situation, and you're being abused, and you're just going and getting coffee, and like there's that kind of nightmare scenario. um that's certainly not how internships should be, right?
Absolutely. Well, I wholeheartedly agree with everything you said. And I think that, when you start to study something, you start to become appreciative of the time and effort and thinking required to make something exceptional, make something really great. And I'm sure what you've been doing with students there has made a huge impact for them in their careers. My approach is to bring dignity to it. And I think that's the one thing that's been missing. Why you wouldn't treat interns really well is because you're just not thinking about them from their perspective. And it really doesn't take a lot to do that.
Yeah.
You can just think about, okay, in their shoes, what would I want? Well, guess what? They're going to show up really nervous. They're about 20 years old. They show up at your firm. They're nervous. Well, how do you then think about, okay, what would I want? So one of the things we do is, once an offer is accepted to intern with us, let's say in February, I let them know, listen, every 6 to 8 weeks, we're going to have a 30-minute conversation. I
Hmm.
just want to find out how school is going for you, how you're doing, get to know you a little bit. And I'm going to share with you about what's happening at my company, Agile Rainmakers. And I'm going to share with you a little bit about the projects that you may be working on. And it's a 30-minute conversation. The interviews are over. So this is just warming you up to come.
Yeah.
If we do 2 or 3 of those before you start, on day one, they know a little bit about you, you know a little bit about them. And also you can kind of tailor the projects a little bit based on what you're hearing their interests are in those 30-minute conversations. So an investment of 60 to 90 minutes per intern over the course of 4 months has them showing up knowing you care about them, understand them, the anxiety is far lower, and you can, get some great work done because you can tailor the work for them. So when I look at it, John, I just think it really doesn't take a lot. I mean, the books I'm writing, it's not rocket science. All I'm doing is I'm putting myself in the, student's shoes. What would I want? I'm putting myself in the intern manager's shoes. What would I want? And then I'm writing from there, and I'm creating this whole world of dignity around the internships from the moment they read a job description to the moment they fill out their exit survey, so that I've got things I can improve on over the next year for next year's internship.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And we spend a lot of time talking about employee experience, like the holistic employee life cycle, the employee experience from recruitment all the way through exit interview, right? And what you just described would be considered part of that, right? Like, but a lot of times we don't consider interns as employees for some reason. So a lot of people kind of put them in a separate bucket. And so we just think of, oh, they're disposable, maybe. They're not part of the normal employee experience life cycle. So we're not even going to consider them. But if you actually stop and think about it, and you think of an intern as an actual employee at like they are, why wouldn't they be part of that employee experience life cycle? And if you're trying to make sure that any employee from the time they see the job posting to the time they start doing interviews and go through the screening process and they start doing onboarding and all that kind of stuff, right? You want to make sure they have an excellent experience. You want to make sure that they feel comfortable, that they feel valued and included, that they're onboarded seamlessly, that they have a great experience. They can become a brand ambassador for your organization. Like companies are spending a lot of time and money and energy on that, right? On that process. And for some reason, when it comes to interns, a lot of times they're not. Like they're not even thinking about it. But
Well,
what you're describing is that. Like you want to
yeah,
make sure that you're doing that, right?
exactly. And let me drive it home for your listeners. Um, think back to your internship. If you interned maybe 15, 20 years ago, and think about how much detail you still remember, how much of an impression those experiences had on you. At that age, everything you see, you're going to remember because it's really like the first time you see it. And you're interning somewhere and you're developing your own views about business or nonprofits or foundations, wherever you're interning, right? You're developing your own views. And the people you're meeting and how they interact with you is leaving a lasting impression, so much so that 15, 20, 30 years later, you still remember certain incidents, certain moments, certain things that were said. And that stays with you. And listen, if it's not something that, makes you happy and you feel good about, well, that's going to be a challenge for the organization and or the people that you met then. I just met someone on Monday who interned at one of the top trading firms here in Chicago. And after the internship, he said, I never want to work there. Now, that's the downside. So we want to avoid that. Here's what you really want to think about. And I learned this at Duke's Business School. Before the intern shows up, they're a customer.
Yeah.
While they intern with you, they're a partner. After the internship's over, they're a product. So if you think about it, how do you treat your customers? Well, guess what? Before they're a partner, you're listening to them, you're providing what they need, you're showing that, hey, you care. And you talked earlier, John, about the future and is there going to be opportunities? I think there's always going to be opportunities for us as human beings, but you have to know how to interact with each other and think about things. So if I know, I've got a customer and, maybe they don't even intern with me, but I want them thinking, hey, I really like Rob Khoury. I really like Agile Rainmakers. And for whatever reason, it didn't work out this time, but boy, what a great firm. And then when they're a partner, how do you treat them? Are you listening to them? Are you giving them feedback regularly? Are you giving them interesting projects that are not too hard, not too easy? Are you making sure that they develop, providing surveys? I not only survey the intern, I survey the parent of the intern because I'm really interested in how the internship went for them. I want to know because they're with me 8 hours. The other 16, they're, with their parents. There's insight there. And I'll hear stuff like, oh, they love the experience. They love to be able to present to founders and CEOs and interact, right? So those are my partners for those 9 weeks or so. And then when they go and it's over, they're a product. Oh, you interned at Agile Rainmakers. Wow, they got a great program there. That's interesting. So, now they go and they go off to wherever they go, right? And if we start to think about it like that and we bring dignity to the entire process, then we've got to get better as managers and we've got to get better at each aspect of the process, what we say, how we interact. We become a better company and the interns become better. And then long term, I'm about 55. So they're 20. When I'm 80, they're going to be about my age. And they're going to be running the world, and I'm going to be at the effect of them. What kind of leaders are we building and developing for the future? And if you're the kind of manager, I'm too busy, and you're ghosting them, which there was an article in the Boston Globe about this in September, an intern manager ghosting their interns. It was unbelievable. Okay. If you're that kind of manager, what you want to do if you have interns coming, stop, really think about it, prepare, plan ahead. Right? You've got someone coming who's a customer now, a partner soon, and later a product. Take it very seriously because you're going to leave an impression that's going to last 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Think about it.
Yeah, exactly. They become that customer. They hopefully, ideally, become that brand ambassador for your organization. And a lot of organizations hire interns with the intention of transferring many of those interns into full-time employees after the internship experience, right? And even if they don't, they want those interns to become beacons for their organization. They want those interns to go out and have a great experience and go out and be ambassadors for their organization. And you don't accomplish that by treating them in a crummy way, by exploiting them, by taking advantage of them, by treating them terribly. And unfortunately, traditionally, that's kind of how interns were treated. And I think for some reason, sometimes, and maybe it's human nature, but sometimes people think, well, that's the school of hard knocks. That's how I did it. That's how I went through the process. And that's how I learned. And so that's how I'm going to make sure other people have that same experience because, doing hard things that makes you, learn and grow. And so I'm going to give other people that same hard experience and the strongest will rise to the top. That it's that mentality, I think, that leads to why some people manage those programs that way. For other people,
Well,
it's just laziness or it's just whatever. But for some people, I think they really just it's the tough love mentality that they went through, and so they think that that's how they should do it.
well, I challenge that. I think you do want it to be hard, but hard for the right reasons. So,
Yeah, yeah,
right. So I want it hard, like the project work is interesting. I don't want it hard because they show up and we don't have the data for them, or hard
yeah,
because we never told them where the bathroom is, or what the lunch is, or hard because we don't give them anything all day. And at 5 o'clock, we say, here, get this done for tomorrow. These are real things that happen. And I don't want
yeah.
it hard because I'm playing favorites with one intern over another in front of them, making them feel small and unliked. No, that kind of hard, which unfortunately is out there like crazy, and I hear about it a lot. That kind of hard needs to end. Okay, these are the future leaders of our society, and I want hard being. Here's the data. Here's the research that needs to be done. We need you to think creatively. No one has solved this. This is up for you to solve. This project is yours. You can own it. You're going to discover. We're right here, supporting, coaching, listening, giving you what you need, but you're going to do the work. We can't do it. We're not going to do it. So this is the heart I want you to work on, and I want you to learn and grow and come to us with questions. We're here to support you and make sure that you win, even if you don't succeed at this. We want you to, because sometimes it doesn't turn out. Well, that doesn't mean you didn't turn out. And John, I do challenge that whole model of, they didn't treat me well, so I'm not going to treat them well. This is the kind of cycle that needs to end so that, internships are something that folks are thrilled to participate in, experience dignity, and it's an opportunity to really create something bigger than what we've ever had. And why not? Right? We're seeing breakthroughs everywhere in life.
Yeah.
Why not with internships? It is long overdue.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree. I think that model, as well intentioned as it may be among some people, they may think that's a good thing. They may think that's, the way it should be. I also challenge that. I think that's ridiculous. I think that is such a unproductive way forward. Even if for some people that might have some level of effectiveness, generally speaking, it's not effective. It's not going to get you what you want. And from the standpoint of brand ambassadorship, from employee experience, holistic life cycle, all of those other things that we've been talking about, it's not going to get you what you want. It's not going to be effective. It's not going to accomplish anything, and it's going to make most people miserable. It's not going to get the organization good outcomes from the internship process. So it's just really, really a dumb mindset. It's not going to be effective. So I also really, really challenge anyone who makes that kind of an argument. Yet I hear it. I hear it often and I see it. I see it often.
Right.
And so let's try to get past that. And just again, like you said early on, it's like think about what you would want. Think about what type of an experience you would hope for either as an intern or as a new entry level employee, or even just an experienced professional going into a new organization. How do you want to be treated? How do you want your first day on the job to be? I love what you said about like a new intern getting hired in February, having those three one-on-one cadence calls in preparation for joining the organization later. It's a small thing, but it's huge, right? Like that little thing is going to be just so empowering to that individual. They're going to get so excited. They're going to be so invested. They're going to be so bought in and ready to just hit the ground running as soon as they get there. It's a super small investment on your part as the internship manager, but the payoff is going to be so huge when you get that team of interns coming in to be with you over that summer. And so it's well worth it. It's just good leadership. It's good management, right?
It certainly is, John. And let me share more about the upside of this. So the upside is, within the first week, and I'll hire 4 or 5 interns at a time. I'll have them work as a team on client projects. Well, within the first week, they're connected with each other, connected with me. Like all of that stuff's gone, and they are already being productive, asking questions that help them move a project
Mm,
forward, right? The other upside, once the internship ends, they're now a product, but they're also a friend. So I've got, dozens of interns over the last 5, 6 years, and they're at places like, Price Waterhouse and Deloitte and Morgan Stanley and Bank of America. They're everywhere, right?
yeah.
And I have a connection, a relationship with these, young professionals in their 20s who are making things happen. And literally, if I reach out to them, they call me back or they email me
Mm,
back, right? Like we're literally, quote, friends. And I absolutely love that. And they'll come and you got to know, like, it's not just the internship. Once the internship ends, they're going to come back to you for a reference letter or a letter of recommendation or some need for advice, etc. And I'm here ready for that. I don't. It's not like extra work for me. It's not like I resist it. I'm ready for that. It's like okay, great. They're coming back, and I know this is going to happen. And sure, I'm here to help you, and I want you to succeed. Right? You're in like I say, you're now like kind of part of Agile Rainmakers. Like, you're this is part of who you are. So I the upside is that relationship that you absolutely cannot put a value on. It's so extraordinary. I was going through New York very quickly, and one of my former interns met me in Penn Station in one of the restaurants
mm.
in Station to have lunch as I was coming through last year. Great conversation, great young man who's going to do so many amazing things. And I just love that conversation, that access, that kind of ability to make a difference ongoingly. And so there's the upside is far greater than you think. Please don't think about the internship as something transactional, like I got work to do, let's just get it done. I really don't care about them. And when it's over, I'll never see them again. Do not think about it like that. And also don't think about it like it's a long interview, okay? And which is a lot of how it's out there. It's a long interview or we need it because the competition's doing it, but our heart really isn't in it. Think about it like, wow, what an opportunity to help shape the future of leaders, to help grow, get some interesting work done, and to develop a relationship with somebody who's interested in our industry, who is going to be a leader someday in that industry, in our industry. We just don't know what it looks like, and we're going to have a great relationship as former coworkers or friends in the future. And who knows where it goes from there.
Yeah, one way I frame it when I'm trying to work with uh, corporate partners and placing students is, you are a co-educator with the student, with us as a university. I'm a professor. I work with students every day. those who work with interns, if it's a good internship experience, you're a mentor, you're a coach, you're a co-educator helping to prepare that student for a successful career. And everything you just said, I feel it too as a professor. I have students coming back to me all the time for letters of recommendation, for career advice, even 5 years, whatever years later after I had them in a class to talk about grad school, to talk about career moves, whatever. I'm traveling back east for whatever reason. I have a chance to have lunch with somebody. Those things are awesome, right? And while it's not like I don't try to, have a good relationship with a student for the off chance that like 10 years from now that relationship, may pay off for me. Like, that's not my calculus, but the reality is it's true. Like we build our networks and in the long run, yes, when you have a strong network, it can pay off. And the reality is you are building your network. I jokingly tell my students, like 20 years from now, I may be coming to you for a job. So I want you to be successful. I want you
Yes,
to, I want you to like have dramatic success because
John.
I may need to come to you and you may be my boss. And I want you to have the most success possible.
Yeah, John, I love what I mean. I love I'm sure your students, I mean, and the alumni love interacting with you as you think it through this way. I mean, this to me, this is the important stuff. Yes, we've got AI going, and AI is going to take jobs and all that. Okay, good, I got that. All right. Well, there's a lot of us that aren't in AI, aren't interested in writing code and all of that. We're going to use
Yeah.
AI, right? But underneath it all, we're gonna have to work with people. We got to get good with people. All right. And we got to have to think this through. If you're a manager, you never had an intern, you want to read some books about this and then jump in with the right attitude and approach and have it be something like what John's talking about, where, years later, it's not why you did it, but years later, they're coming back to you, asking for advice, sharing what's been happening, all of that stuff. And I think it's so true. I could be working for one of my interns someday. I mean, the world just kind of changes on you. And that could happen. I mean, the likelihood's low, but it could. And if it did, you know what? I actually trained them a little bit, so I wouldn't mind that kind of treatment as a manager, right? Like, so there's so much to me. There's so much opportunity to make a difference while supporting these students, and in a way, you're supporting your future self. And I think that's the way to think about it. And that's why dignity to me is so important in the internships. I wrote the first book I wrote, How to Intern Successfully. I wrote that because I started talking to my interns and I noticed how much anxiety they had.
Mm.
And it's like, God, if they need something they can read that would lower their anxiety. So I wrote the book. It's just totally like, get out of your own way. Here's how you get out of your own way. And with like questions to ask, things like that to introspect and think. I don't think the students say introspect so much. It's just too easy to pay attention to other stuff. So like so the first book's like dignity for themselves in how to intern successfully. Just like, how do I get out of my own way and get the most out of my internship? And I've seen so much stuff out there about how to interview and how to find, yeah, great. But once you're there, how do you make the most of it? And then the second thing I noticed is so many folks I talk to who are bringing on interns, like out socially. It'll be like in May, and I'll talk to someone. I'll tell them, oh, I write books about internships. They'll say, oh yeah, I've got an intern starting on Monday, and I'll say, great. What are they going to work on? Like, oh, I don't know. Have you met them? Do you know their name? No. I'm like, what? Like, it's the year 2025, right? So I just sat back and I thought, okay, Intern Management, this book will help anybody think through what they need to think through to have an internship be exceptional. And so this is my contribution to the whole internship discourse. This is like, I'd like to see a world where dignity is front and center with how we treat students and frankly, how we treat each other. So that's what we're up to here.
I love it. I love it. Well, this has just been a fascinating conversation, Robert. I really appreciate you taking the time. I note the time, I need to let you go. But before we wrap things up, I just wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, where they can find your books, and then give us the final word on the topic for today.
Where you can find the books, right on Amazon, Intern Management, Principles for Designing an Exceptional Internship. That's out. And also How to Intern Successfully, Insights and Actions to Optimize Your Experience, also on Amazon. I recommend you get Intern Management for yourself and How to Intern Successfully for your intern, and then you won't believe how great your internship can be. And so that's one thing. To connect with me, you can go to our website, agilerainmakers.com, look around, and then I have a newsletter that goes out every 3 or 4 weeks where I talk about internships, business, etc. And it's just for me a creative outlet to share these ideas in a way that moves things forward. And then lastly, if you like to see something that's very fun and interesting, last year at this time, an intern created a Instagram page called Intern versus Manager, Intern vs Manager. And he said, in 2 weeks, I'll have 10,000 followers. And he was wrong. In 2 weeks, he had 60,000 followers.
Wow.
It's unbelievable. And it's all about, bringing fun to the whole internship discourse. The reels are very enjoyable. And that's just another way to connect with us. So 3 different ways to do so. And I look forward to anyone reaching out. Folks reach out sometimes. My email is robert@agilerainmakers.com. Just asking for advice. Please do. Happy to reply with whatever I can. This is bigger than me. It really is about the future of our society, the future of internships and the leaders that we are going to be at the effect of in 20, 30 years. Thank you, John.
Wonderful. Robert, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, to get connected, find out more about what Robert and his team can do for you. Check out the books. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.